All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode three. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to try not to keep track of things, but if you watch the other seasons, you'll notice I do continually try to improve. And that's a thing in computer science. It's kind of lame when I do it or cringe, but it's going to be lame or cringe when you do it too. And if you try to get into a tech career, which is what a lot of these videos are for, um, because I wanted to be an educator. I've always loved teaching, empowering people, encouraging people to learn, to better themselves, to better each other. And I do have respect for people in religion. Although, at the same time, I have more respect for the people that are in religion that can still admit that they don't have all the solutions, or at least they don't agree with everything. Because but it's hard because you can't really say that. You gotta be careful saying that. Because if the wrong person hears you out of context, then they go back and they tell the congregation, then the whole congregation hates you. And then, then you got to go find a new church. Like, I'm just kidding, but it could get as extreme as that. And that's why there's just a little explanation of why people seem so rooted in their beliefs. It's not that they're rooted in being angry and petty for certain things. That's not their intentions, but the pathway to hell is paved in good intentions is a common saying that I just heard growing up. And that's because, like, yeah, you could have meant well, but did you do well? Like, did you follow through? And that's like the big thing too. Um, that's why I'm very slowly going to be doing the other projects. Like, I've given out 6 laptops, and I'm about to give out a Minecraft game to someone, one of the viewers that commented. But like, and I think I want to try to do that, like one Minecraft a month or something. See if I have a budget for that, and then just like, but making deals too, because nothing's really free. I mean, and you'll learn that quick with YouTube. Is like you can get all the views, you can get all the likes, but then almost every YouTuber will, and I'll probably do some advertising at some point too if I get big. But the thing is so I have a career outside of this. Like YouTube, yeah, that's great. And if I became a YouTuber, eh, like a professional one, like, nah, I think I still want to keep this like a side gig. But because I love my current job, and anyways, now that's almost a scary thing. It's like I don't want to. And see, COVID. Let's back up a little bit. COVID was really hard on everybody. I was actually laid off from a couple of places. So not because of COVID for the first one. That was because it's very competitive up here in Fort Collins. And so you should know that right away. Like, just to manage your expectations. Like, if you're going to make the investment of spending, what is it, like $40,000 to $60,000 for a college education now. Um, and yeah, and so if you don't have help, if your parents aren't able to pay that or something, like my parents didn't pay for my college. My dad matched half of what I saved, and and my kids have college savings accounts, but that's because my co-parent was actually smart, and what she did was, and that's not, mind you, we're very respectful with each other. She's the mother of my kids. She is a very smart person. Like, let's get that out of the way. There's no animosity. I mean, there's a little animosity, but it's because I'm kind of a knucklehead sometimes. So let's be honest. But no, it was nothing like violent, nothing like dangerous or anything like that. It was like we just split up to split up. But anyways, sorry. But what she did is she started putting all of the money that the kiddos got for their birthdays when they were really little and they didn't really know, and she was putting them in savings accounts. So granted, like relatives and stuff got in the habit of just sending money because they didn't know what to get them. And that's kind of a trend thing with America that's shifting. So originally the American dream was, oh, you should really watch Santa Claus with Tim Allen to really understand the first one, mind you. Not there's like 5 now, I think, but yeah, Tim Allen, the Santa Claus. You should watch that because that explains capitalism and America perfectly. Like, the guy's got to, get out the new toy, and then he like loses his job or something, or I don't know. Actually, wait, no, is that Santa Claus 2? Anyways, he makes toys. So maybe you need to watch the Santa Claus series, I guess. I don't know. At least the first and second one. But the point is I can just tell you actually. So people have to sell things. Now, whether it's toys or, oh no, you can look at the Griswolds too with National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. So again, a comedy movie that we watch. I watched it a long time ago, but I don't think I was sober when I watched it. So that's the other thing too. You kind of tend to drink while you watch a lot of these things, and it's entertainment. And then also the drinking too. Like, there's a big problem with alcohol up in the mountains because life is so hard up there that a lot of people drink. I mean, and not the pleasant, like, successful and celebratory drinking. It's the oof, well, at least I'm not dead kind of set of drinking. Like you're celebrating just being alive another day. Like, whoop-de-doo. Like so, and that's why I'm just saying, like a lot of people, there's depression up there, suicide's a big thing, like, and so there's a whole set of problems that a lot of normal people, and I say normal, is just a lot of people from different environments don't really have to understand or even deal with. Like it's just not on their radar. So I mean, yeah. But again, the good Christian thing, anyone who claims to have grown up Christian, automatically they have no excuse for at least not admitting when they're wrong and then understanding, but then also not doing the work to understand in the first place, because it very explicitly says in the Bible that all of God's children. So if you believe in that sort of thing, then that means every human being, regardless of anything else. Like there are no exceptions. A human being was created by, okay. So, and once we get that clear, because we didn't consider black people as humans, we didn't consider brown people as humans. Like we only considered white people, white males, honestly, as humans. Let's get that out of the way too. Women were not humans. Just kidding. But it's not woman, man, unless we change the word man to something else. Human includes the word man in it. Does not include the word woman. A human and a woman, but hey, that's a man and that's a woman. Like so, right there, that's a person. Then that's a different person. So that's a person. That's a black person. That's a person. That's a brown person. That's a person. That's a yellow person. And yellow, like what? Like just because they ran out of bold colors to say like oh that's like a slightly white person or that's like a. And granted, even as I say that, it does make sense why racism. Sorry, I'm not justifying it. I'm just explaining, like, it was because of people's problem solving skills or lack thereof. Like, they didn't understand. And that's when you have different universes, different environments. So you only problem solve for the problems that are directly apparent to you at the time. So, and as you grow up, as you change your environment, your problem solving changes. If you move to the city, like I said, I left like 30 plus guns up in the mountains. Didn't leave them, sold them to cops. Like, so. Let's get that out of the way. It wasn't like I sold them a bunch of gangsters and gangbangers and stuff. No, I sold them a bunch of cops. Like, and we all had guns. Like, it wasn't a thing. And anyone that was even close to a gangbanger up there, yeah, did not carry a gun. Didn't need to get to that. Like, that was problem solving. That was like a sledgehammer for something a tack hammer would have fixed. Like, and that's the thing. Like, well, okay, maybe I don't have a tack hammer. Say you're of another color, or that's the other thing too. And why gangs are, it's understandable too. Not justifiable, but understandable. So you're already set, like, the deck is stacked against you just because you're not white. We all know this. And so this whole affirmative action thing, like, I get the argument that it was not reverse racism, because then reverse racism would technically be that you're being nice. But like it's racism, but just a different direction. Like a different vector of racism is what the argument is. And I agree to a point that that does make sense, because then it's not based on merit. It's, what were your grades? What were your, but here's the thing. I don't agree with the merit. So it should be merit based, but we need other, and here's where this is why I really kind of explained that, is because Colorado State University, I did just get in. I mean, I did recently hear directly from the university their opinion, and I love it. Like they just reiterated that their university has always been based on merit. However, it also includes a bunch of, they call it DEIB, diversity, equity, inclusion, and something, but there's like a whole industry based on this, and it's important because as the melting pot of this country. Now, see, it's harder to be a melting pot in certain areas. So I can see affirmative action actually hurting businesses where there just isn't a lot of diverse talent. Like, I get that. And like, so then you got to hire like the one black person and then the one brown person, or the whatever. And then it's like, okay, you're forcing people to be racist because they have to find, it's like a bingo. Oh, I got, workplace bingo. Like, or we used to joke about how stupid the multiracial commercials were, because they tried to have, and at the same time, they even thought they were cringe themselves, because they're like, okay, we have to have one of every type. It's like a reading rainbow type thing, because their intention was to show a healthy mixture of diverse cultures and societies. But that's not always necessary. We need the again, South Park. That's another thing I'll be doing a lot is I'll be quoting South Park a lot in these things. So, oh, and actually, if that one person is watching, yeah, I do plan on sending the code. But we do. It's 30 thumbnails, but I'll handle that in the comments, and I might even have to readjust that because we've got three. And granted, I don't. I mean, that's good. It's good, and we might need to reassess the deal, but because it's a $30 game, I'm pretty sure. Like, just like I mean, and for me, it's a decent amount of money, but this is important too because it means someone else gets to do this that I'm doing. Hopefully they don't. Like hopefully they actually play the game for what it's supposed to be, and then leave the musings to the other people to do. I mean, except for computer science. See, I don't know. I don't know. They could be little philosophers, but I know my kids are. So actually, yeah, fair is fair. Wow, that'd be funny. Scary too because and so that's the other thing. So the basis of Christianity is the devil is knowledge, it's wisdom. So yeah, Bobby Boucher, you're the devil. So anybody that watches Adam Sandler movies would get that reference. Also, as the music's getting loud, I think I turned it down a little bit, but it sometimes gets a little invasive. But that's okay. Apologies, and I'll work on it. We're all working on ourselves. We are all working on ourselves. Okay. Whoops. That's the other thing too. I like to chop shorts out of these because that's the current thing now. Like for advertising, just putting out shorts of like the larger videos, and then people can make the decision of if they want to go check it out or not. So, all right, let's go ahead and chop some trees. We're still preparing. Like I was healing up my tools, gathering up some pumpkins and melons to do that. What we're going to do is get some bone meal. We got to get a lot of wood, so we're going to need a lot of torches. Yeah, one stack is probably good for what we're going to try to do, but and I usually prefer spruce. Nope, spruce. There we go. See, I even have a hard time remembering. Like now, in hindsight, birch looks weird to me. I mean, they're all different. Like these are kind of similar to what the normal Minecraft ones look like, but even that, like that's not the same. So, anyways, and again, that's important. Like same with learning other languages, and that's why I'm so impressed with foreign students. Well, like at CSU and like all the Saudis that I knew, and I knew a lot of the others too, because I used to go to the I House, which is the International Housing, excuse me, dorms. And some people get offended with the word dorms. Residence halls. My sister actually used to work in the residence. Anyways, sorry for CU. So there you go, right there. We got a little family rivalry. Not a big deal. I mean, we really don't care. Like she got a good education, I got a good education. Like that's the whole point of college is like you go to a university or a college and then they charge you a ton of money, but they're accredited. So and they have to pay a lot of money to be accredited. Like they have to pay their professors, they have to pay for all of their research, they have to pay them what they're worth. And so again, these situations have spiraled out of control because they're just not feasible. They're not. Same with the six-figure FANG salaries. Like, and I hate to say that because a lot of these fancy developers, but then a lot of these fancy developers are finding themselves laid off and then struggling and scrambling to learn the next, software tool or thing. Like I recently did. I got a degree and I was like, okay, now what? They're like, oh, you have to be an intern. Okay, nailed that. Now what? And then I got hired on full time. I still didn't really even know what I did. Like I knew mostly what I needed to do, but like, and it was hard for them too because they had to like work with what they had, pay me a lot of money because there's still a lot of money once I was at my first tech job, but it was half a six-figure salary. We could say that. It's 50,000. So that was the first tech job. So I was like, all right, cool. I mean, it's not great, but it's not terrible. Like I was offered 40,000 to be a Subway manager of my own store. So, and I worked at Subway for 5 years, and I knew the job really well. I was comfortable with the person that did the deliveries most of the time, or at least the people, and like I knew how to handle that. I knew how to do all the problem solving for that role. So I was good as a manager. I was the manager for a little bit unofficially, and then I was the assistant manager for like the last 2, 3 years. Yeah, and I had keys to three different stores. I was in a position of like super trust in the subway community in Fort Collins, like if that's even a thing, which it's not. Like, although granted, so even within the subways, it was divided between the one family that owned like six or seven of them, and then this other family that owned the others, and then they kept like buying up any of the individual franchises. So it was like the Montagues and the like the two Shakespeare families for the subway stores in Fort Collins. It's hilarious because then even sorry, not trying to give too much information, but a lady like I know the wife of the guy that owns all of the other subways just because she works at a place that I go, and that's it. Like I don't we don't have coffee dates, tea dates. We've never that sounds like cheating. Sorry. I was trying to make it sound like political stuff. Like all these politicians, they keep getting in trouble for like Biden's being investigated right now for like all the spending. All the Republicans are like, not all of them, but enough of the louder ones are out there. And see right there, they're ruining it for all of the other ones that are like kind of hesitant, but like, now wait a minute, like what is all this? Like why are you freaking out? Like, yeah, Biden's Democrat, but do we really need to waste all this money and resources? Yes, because then they're wasting all the money and resources to persecute Trump. Except now they do have stuff on him. Like we've literally heard him on tape admit that he had a classified document, showed it to somebody that wasn't with clearance, and he didn't have clearance currently. So that is guilty. Like that's violating the Espionage Act. So he's in trouble. You think, but then like people start throwing around the pardon. Like, hold on. I literally just saw a video clip of Trump saying that he would kill the woman that he just pardoned because he pardoned some woman that was a drug dealer. I don't think she was a drug dealer currently, but she had that on her record. And see, that's why I did the whole thing with sorry, and I say drug dealer, which I really it's not fair. And labels is one of my concepts that I have a whole Jamboard about. Let's see. But let's talk about my specific ideas, my concepts that I'm putting together for my master's in cybersecurity. That sounds great, huh? So basically, it's preventative blue team, and where it is it's blue team. So first off, cybersecurity is split between red team and blue team. Red team is attack, blue team is defend. And we, just like any martial arts, or I did martial arts growing up too, kung fu specifically. I did training for military training, but I was never in the military, but I did military training. And then, which is hilarious. And like even Hitler had the Hitler Youth in Nazi Germany. So let's not get ahead of ourselves too much. Technically, Boy Scouts is military training as well, and so is Girl Scouts. But even then, we were dividing upon the genders. And yes, there's two sexes. Sorry, we should say dividing upon the sexes because there's multiple genders, and I'm okay with that. I understand that. But the actual sex is like what you're born at birth. And then even then I understand that in the wild, even that changes. Like there's animals out there that change sex naturally. Like it's a thing. Like I think seahorses, worms, I think they're both. But anyways, sorry. My point is and we don't need to get too far into that because that is or let's talk through real quick. So throughput is how much someone can handle. And I apologize already if some of these videos might seem a bit much. It's okay. Take a break, come back, process it, and process with an open mind too. Because I'm not saying these things lightly. Like anything I say on here, like all of it, not canon will be used against you in a court of law or anything you see on TV. Hopefully. Anyways, hopefully it's just TV. I'm just kidding. But no, throughput. That's why, because I also deal with a lot of people from older generations, and they're usually a little more technologically challenged, but not because of any fault of their own. It's just because they might not have been at a time where they had to learn it. Like even my mom's generation had to learn typewriters. So you ask, and that's why you see a lot of these videos on YouTube and stuff is like, watch a kid try to figure out a rotary phone, which is where you turn a rotary phone. So it's rotational, like it rotates. See right there, if you don't know that, then rotary sounds kind of weird. Like personally, I know about the Rotary Society that supposedly, oh, and I was also the Optimist Club, which is part of the Rotary Society. I don't know. But it's a club back home that gave me an award for being an optimist. I had no idea what that was. I thank you. Like that's what, because I was just so optimistic and so like positive in general. Like they actually gave me an award for how positive I was. And my dad struggled with alcoholism. Like But I still, I mean, I still love him. He was my dad. Still do. I mean, he's dead, but like when he was alive, I always loved him. Like never thought less of him. However, Buena Vista, I get it. A lot of people are drunks up there. A lot of people die up there from it. So, anyways, and then that's why like people that they get surprised when they see certain people like can't handle their alcohol. And that always bothered me too, because it's like it's not that they can't well, okay, it is that they can't handle their alcohol, but it's because they're handling a lot more alcohol than you. And so right there, both of the people on either side of that kind of like finger pointing are kind of wrong. And again, that was just me arguing with myself. But if you think about it, both sides of that particular situation there are stories or two sides to that story, and here they are. So, and that's the thing is like it's easy to say these things like there's always two sides to a story, or do unto others as you would have done to you, or be kind. But then at the same second, Trump would admit that he would kill someone he just pardoned. Like, that's how corrupt and backwards politics has become, but it always has been because that's just human problem solving of a macro scale. And we're doing it good. We're doing a good job. I like capitalism. I think it could be better. And I don't think we have to pigeonhole. All right, let's get back to my concepts because this is for my master's in cybersecurity. The whole blue teaming, preventative blue teaming. Let's see, actually, how much time do we have? Yeah, good. About it. First off is the relevancy and irrelevancy of labels. That's one of my favorite concepts that I'm working on. And it basically means it's my interpretation of the idea of is this relevant? Is this important? And does this need attention? So, and I asked that about everything because I've worked in jobs where I had to go through hundreds of IT help desk tickets. That was my second tech job, by the way. Loved it. Loved all of them, actually. Actually, it was bittersweet with the first one because it was really frustrating. I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. Nobody was really helping me, but then they were, but they could only help me so much. And I was drinking too. So it was also like, at certain points, people were kind of like weighing like whether they really had the time to invest in this. And then at the end, like when the layoffs were coming around, and like they laid off like 8 people when they laid me off. And it was just like, it was all the people that just weren't cutting it. Like, for whatever reason. And it was easy to point out that I was drinking a lot, but like, oh, okay, sorry. And that gets blurred out. Had a buddy message me. But anyways, uh anyways, sorry. That's I just gotta remember to send a reply. But anyways, but that's why I'm doing this on the PS5, which again, I can only afford because I finally have I have a really good job now, but it's still not like, it's not no six-figure salary, but it is really wonderful. Like I love what I do. It's rewarding. It pays good. Like it's really good pay still. But I mean, and mind you, I had a friend who got a $90,000 job right out of college. And then I've had other friends that are still looking for work like 6, 7 years after college. So that's kind of your range of success. And mind you, it's a wonderful degree. Sorry, anyways, relevancy and irrelevancy of labels. That means it's also closely tied to a concept called pigeonholing, where it means actually right here's a good example. So up here, I have these little spots of grass. This is a spot for one tree and only one tree, and it has to be a birch tree or an acacia tree or an oak tree, but it cannot be, actually, it can be a spruce tree, but not the way that I do it. I would not put a spruce tree here because that's one, confusing, because you can grow them in groups of four and get the most amount of wood for that. Because it also grows really tall, and that's why it's the most efficient for me to harvest spruce wood is because it's the quickest that I've found. Now, birch wood is still okay if you have a lot of grass, if you have a lot of dirt. But say you're in a desert and you only have a few pieces of dirt, then you'd want to use the spruce tree. So right there, I made differences of trades, but yet I pigeonholed. So this is an area for a spruce tree. I would not grow birch here. And this is pigeonholing, meaning there is a designated spot for each pigeon. And so the term comes from a practice for people who keep birds or pigeons specifically. They would have pigeonholes, some of them, not all, would have like a little cubby, and then the pigeon would go in there and sleep. And that was its cubby. Like it would be its own pigeonhole, its home. That's kind of like apartments for birds, if you think about it. But it's problem solving for if you have a lot of birds and you got to keep them comfortable. You know, it's not the best, but same with slavery. We had tight pack and loose pack. Like, okay, and then relevancy, how relevant is it? So we jumped from a bunch of pigeons, which are just, birds, and they might be mildly discomforted by their size of their pigeonhole, versus a life-threatening or death or a life and death situation of slavery, where we did loose pack or tight pack on how we shipped prisoners over to our country that were doing nothing but curious. Like they're curious about these white men that were hanging out there. Because most of the times I don't think they had seen a lot of white, but I don't know. I mean, I can see it. I've studied anthropology. I mean, just briefly, I did a freshman class on that. And even there was like tribes in New Guinea that still haven't seen people up until recently. I think now they've all seen people, but same with tribes in the rainforest. There's tribes that don't interact with people, might not have seen like outside people. And it's you can't say like for sure a blanket statement or a generalization for everything when you're talking about people in general. Because now people is extended to all humans. And I hate the word human because I think we kind of talked about it in the last one or maybe this one because it has the word man in it, but not woman. So right there, women are oppressed, accidentally oppressed by just our language. Like same with Latin languages like Latinx, and there's some controversy there because it's like it's the compromise between Latino and Latina, those two pigeonholes for people. You are either a Latina or a Latino or I don't know, and so the whole transgender community where they're trying to see if they can go between the sexes and be one of many genders. And so out of respect for them, yeah, I'm going to be like, well, you're making life-changing changes and, you know, I'm going to support you by at least acknowledging what you want to be referred to as, what you want to be known as, because that's what any of us. Now, granted, like I also played a lot of video games growing up, and I know people that, or especially people that play Dungeons and Dragons. I never got into that, unfortunately, but, and maybe I will one day too. But even as I say that, I'm pretty busy. Like, I mean, these musings, because they're at a drop of a hat, I can go off, I could record a 30-minute video. I don't have my kids like certain times, so it's like, yeah, even though I can still be a dad, um, and I think I'm a good dad, a great dad. My kids would say I'm a great dad, but they have to say that. I'm just kidding. Like, no, but on a scale of like dads, I'm like, yeah. I taught them how to tie their shoes in a day, if that helps. And it was actually a thing that like well, we'll get into that later, but parenting and stuff. So if you're a parent out there and you're watching these things, you need to go easy on yourself. You need to go easy on the substances too. Like if you're using substances, ideally just don't. But maybe your life isn't that great, and so maybe you grew up like having to escape into substances. Like that's a very real thing that a lot of people don't understand about substance use and substance abuse. Because even substance use is heavily condoned by the Christian church. Jesus' blood is wine. Like it's written that his blood was wine. Now, however you want to interpret that, like, see, yeah. Although I think it's kind of funny, even as I look at like, uh, my kids had a rotary phone toy growing up, so they understood what a rotary phone is. But say you didn't grow up with a rotary phone, like, it's just, I grew up with a rotary phone. Like, I actually had a phone where you had to spin the numbers. And so I'm old enough to remember that. And then the people, that's why I have so much respect for my elders, our elders. And a lot of Asian cultures do that too. They're very respectful of their elders. And it's not that we're disrespectful we don't want to be disrespectful. It's just, it's an unnecessary, or it's an unfortunate side effect of capitalism. Ooh, sorry, that's really heavy right there. But that's also about 30 minutes, so we should. Oh, and I didn't even get into it. All right, sorry, real quick. So we talked about pigeonholing and the relevancy and irrelevancy of labels. I also have this binary bias, which is a black and white argument, which we started to talk about in one of these this season. I'm pretty sure about binary. How we were talking about there's only one choice, yes or no. That's also known as a Boolean in computer science, a variable that has one of two states. It's either a yes or no, a one or zero. And so right there, already you learned something there. But the binary bias, which is actually controversial because of the sex change arguments. So yeah, that's a whole can of worms that yeah. Anyways, which is funny because kids understand that worms can be both, seahorses can be both. Like so, and then but depending on who you are, that could be considered grooming. because then you're teaching them that, this is okay when the Bible says that it's definitely not, even though the Bible does not say it's not. I'm pretty sure there's nowhere in there, because I would have seen it quoted by now, where it directly says you cannot change, because they didn't think that you could back then. Like, but now, like, I don't, I mean, eh, it's debatable. I mean, depends on your opinion of what actually justifies a woman. But in my opinion, they're close enough for me. I don't care. Like, I mean, it's not going to affect my life one way or the other. I mean, because I support women so much is part of why I feel that way. Because I already support women, and I support these people for what they want to do too. Like, and not these people, like, to try to group them in an offensive way. Just be like, people that decide to make that decision, they should have the power to make that decision, and they shouldn't be oppressed for it. So, and that's where the religion clashes with, like, even that issue, clashes with the gun issue, clashes with the school shooting issue, clashes with the substance use issue, the substance abuse. Even though alcohol is just fine, but that's because we remember the prohibition days, and it's in the Bible. So, like, right there, yeah, wine can't be bad. Wine's fine. Like, but yet weed is not. I'll bet you weed would be in the Bible if they had if they understood it. In fact, I want to say it is. Sorry, hold on a quick. This one will be a little longer, but so technically, the Bible says, I've given you all these seed bearing plants and herbs to use. And marijuana bears seeds. So in the Bible, it says you can use marijuana. Now, how much and at what age? That is, you need to be careful because your brain isn't fully developed until your mid to late 20s, including your prefrontal cortex, which is your decision maker. And that's what I know from my friends in addiction recovery therapy, both participants and the actual therapists. So I've talked with therapists. I know people that do this for a living. Like, it's I'm a bit knowledgeable about these things. Sorry, that's just a little thing. Is like because I've gotten it a bunch, but like in discussions on Twitter, been like, well, who are you and what do you know? Like, I'm not a professional, but here's what I do, and then I try to present, how I know. Maybe a couple of short articles, or at least a couple articles, and then it's on them to kind of prove it wrong. And often the discussions kind of just disappear because like they either run out of time to look at it or forget to, and that's understandable. But as technology improves, we're getting less and less excuses to not just look up things for ourselves. And that's Google Foo, and that's another thing I talk about in these musings. But basically, so we've got binary bias, Google Foo, which isn't mine, but that is an important one I talk about. And I don't even care that they're not my concepts. Binary bias is just black and white argument or a straw man argument, so it's had other names. But my idea is just like binary. It's really easy for computer sciencey type people or people with that kind of training to understand what binary is. Like it either is or it isn't. So that's why these arguments feel like it either is or it isn't. It's either my way or the highway, and that's what we used to say it. But now it's like, and that's politics in a nutshell. So, anyways, hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, ta ta.